The little boy's knuckles were raw from knocking on the door of Chicago's most dangerous man. And Gabriel Campbell opened it anyway. 4 years. That's how long it had been since Gabriel buried his wife. 4 years since he'd felt anything except the cold weight of power and the hollow satisfaction of control. His mansion in Lincoln Park stood like a fortress. Marble floors that echoed with emptiness. Floor-to-ceiling windows that framed a city he owned but couldn't feel. And silence so thick, it pressed against his chest every morning when he woke alone. Tonight, December 23rd, the first blizzard of the season hammered against those windows. Gabriel sat in his study nursing whiskey that tasted like ash, staring at reports he didn't care about when he heard it. Bang, bang, bang. Small fists against wood. Desperate. Gabriel crossed the foyer in 4 strides. His hand hovered over the Glock in his waistband. Force of habit in a world where knocking after midnight usually meant blood. He opened the door expecting a threat. Instead, he found a child. The boy couldn't have been more than 4 years old. Dark curls plastered to his forehead by melting snow. Wearing Spider-Man pajamas under a coat 2 sizes too small. His lips were blue. His eyes, impossibly large and brown and terrified, locked onto Gabriel's face. "Sir," the child said, voice shaking. "My mom's crying in the bathroom and won't come out. Can you help her?" Gabriel's world tilted. Now let's see how one knock on the wrong door changed 3 lives forever. Gabriel's instinct screamed danger. This was a setup. Had to be. 4-year-olds didn't wander Lincoln Park in blizzards. They didn't knock on the doors of men whose names made grown criminals cross themselves. But the boy's teeth were chattering. His small hands clutched the door frame like it was the only solid thing in a tilting world. "Please," the child whispered. "She won't talk to me. I'm scared." Gabriel had built his empire on reading people. Lies had a flavor, metallic, sour. This child tasted like pure terror. "Where's your mom?" Gabriel's voice came out rougher than he intended. "Downstairs, the bathroom where she works." The boy pointed down with a mittened hand. "She locked the door. I called her name, but she won't answer, and I don't know what to do." Downstairs, the service quarters. Realization crashed through Gabriel like the blizzard wind. He knew exactly one woman who worked in those quarters. Caroline, his housekeeper. Invisible, efficient Caroline who'd worked for him for years, who kept the mausoleum running, who never asked questions and never looked him in the eye. Caroline had a son. "What's your name?" Gabriel asked. "Isaiah." The boy's chin trembled. "Isaiah Mitchell. Are you mad I knocked? Nana said I should never bother you, but Mom won't come out and I don't have anyone else." "I'm not mad." The words surprised Gabriel as much as the child. He stepped aside. "Come in." Isaiah hesitated on the threshold, snow melting into small puddles at his feet. Gabriel saw the moment the warmth of the house hit the boy, the way his shoulders sagged, the way his whole body seemed to lean toward the heat like a plant toward sun. "It's okay," Gabriel said quietly. Something ancient and rusted shifted in his chest. "Let's find your mom." The service quarters occupied the mansion's lower level, a world Gabriel rarely entered. Staff came and went like ghosts, maintaining the illusion that the house ran itself. He knew Caroline by sight. Mid-20s, brown hair usually pulled back, always in simple clothes, always moving with quiet efficiency. She'd been with him 3 years, maybe 4. He'd never asked. He'd never looked at her long enough to wonder if she had a child waiting somewhere. Isaiah's small hand slipped into Gabriel's as they descended the stairs. The gesture was so trusting, so unconscious, that Gabriel nearly pulled away. He couldn't remember the last time someone had touched him without fear or calculation. The boy's palm was freezing. "How'd you get here?" Gabriel asked. "Where do you live?" "On Damen Avenue, with Nana." Isaiah's voice was small in the stairwell. But Mom didn't come home tonight. Nana said she was working late. Then Nana fell asleep, and I got scared because Mom always calls before bedtime and she didn't. And I know where she works because she showed me once from outside. And I remembered. And I just wanted to make sure she was okay. But the lady at the gate was gone and... The child had walked 2 miles in a blizzard. At night. Through Southside, Chicago. Gabriel's jaw locked. The gate guard would be fired by morning. They reached the lower level. The bathroom door was closed. A thin strip of light showed underneath. "Mom?" Isaiah's voice cracked. He pulled free from Gabriel and ran to the door, small fists banging again. "Mommy, please, I'm sorry I left Nana's. Please don't be mad. Please come out." Silence. Gabriel's pulse kicked. He moved past Isaiah, knocked once, firm. "Caroline, it's Campbell. Open the door." Nothing. He tried the D. Handle. Locked from inside. "Caroline." His voice dropped to the tone he used on subordinates who were about to make a fatal mistake. "You have 10 seconds. Then I'm breaking this door." 5 seconds passed. 6. 7. The lock clicked. The door opened 2 inches. Caroline Mitchell stood in the gap, and Gabriel saw her. Really saw her. For the first time in 4 years. She looked like she'd been drowning. Eyes red-rimmed and swollen. Mascara tracked down pale cheeks, brown hair falling loose. Around her face. She wore her usual black work pants and white button-down. But the shirt was wrinkled, the top button undone. Her hands shook as she gripped the door. But what stopped Gabriel cold was her expression when she saw Isaiah. Pure devastation. "Baby," she breathed. "Oh God, baby, what are you doing here?" Isaiah launched himself at her legs. Caroline caught him, dropped to her knees, wrapped her arms around the small body like she could absorb him into her skin. The boy was crying, now, silent tears soaking into her shirt. "You wouldn't come out," Isaiah sobbed. "You wouldn't answer. I thought like with the bad man, I thought..." Shh, no baby, no." Caroline's voice broke. "I'm okay. I'm so sorry. I'm okay." Gabriel watched them. Mother and son, wrapped around each other on the floor of a bathroom in his house. The boy's fear. The mother's guilt. The desperate way they held each other like the world was trying to tear them apart. Something cracked in Gabriel's chest. Something that had been frozen since the day he'd lowered Caitlin's casket into frozen ground. "Caroline." His voice was quieter now. "What happened?" She didn't look up. Didn't let go of Isaiah. "I'm sorry, Mr. Campbell. I'll take him home. This won't happen again. I didn't ask for an apology. I asked what happened." Silence. Then, barely audible. "Panic attack." The words hung in the air. Gabriel had seen panic attacks before. In soldiers. In men who'd seen too much. Violence. In civilians caught in crossfire. He knew the signs. Hyperventilation, tunnel vision, the sensation of dying while your heart tried to beat through your ribs. "How long have you been in here?" he asked. "I don't know. An hour? Maybe more." Caroline's arms tightened around Isaiah. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. "I'm sorry. I know I was supposed to finish the upstairs rooms. I'll do them now. You'll do nothing." Gabriel crouched down, ignoring the way his knees protested. Eye level with Caroline and Isaiah, close enough to see the exhaustion carved into her face. "When's the last time you ate?" She blinked. What? "Ate food. When?" "This morning, I think." When's the last time you slept more than 4 hours?" Caroline's mouth opened. Closed. Her eyes dropped to Isaiah, who was watching Gabriel with that same unwavering trust. "I sleep enough," she said quietly. Liar, Gabriel thought. But he didn't push. Not yet. He stood, offered his hand. Both of you. Upstairs. Now. Caroline stared at his palm like it might burn her. Mr. Campbell, I can't. You can. You will. Gabriel kept his hand extended. Your son walked 2 miles in a blizzard because he was scared. You had a panic attack alone in a bathroom. We're going upstairs. You're going to eat something, and then we're going to talk about why my housekeeper looks like she hasn't had a real meal in a week. I have a job to finish. The job is finished. For tonight. Their eyes met. Gabriel saw the moment Caroline recognized the tone in his voice, the one that ended arguments. She took his hand. Her palm was small and cold in his. He pulled her up gently, felt how light she was. Too light. How had he not noticed? Isaiah grabbed his mother's other hand. The 3 of them stood in the narrow hallway. The boy in wet pajamas, the mother still shaking, and Gabriel Campbell, most feared man in Chicago, feeling something uncomfortably close to, protective. Come on, he said. Let's get the kid some dry clothes. Gabriel's kitchen was a showpiece. Sub-zero refrigerator, Italian marble counters, copper pots that had never been used. He'd had it designed by some celebrity chef Caroline couldn't name, all clean lines and expensive appliances that existed only because the designer said they should. Now, at 1 a.m, she sat at the breakfast bar while Gabriel Campbell moved through that pristine space like he actually knew where things were. Isaiah was wrapped in one of Gabriel's sweaters, drowning in black cashmere that hung to his knees. His wet pajamas spun in the dryer down the hall. He sat on the counter next to the stove, swinging his legs, watching the man who'd opened the door with the kind of fascination children reserved for superheroes. Are you really rich? Isaiah asked. Isaiah, Caroline hissed. That's rude. He's 4, Gabriel said without turning from the stove. He's not rude. He's honest. He glanced at Isaiah. Yeah, kid, I'm really rich. Mom says rich people are usually mean. Caroline wanted the marble to open and swallow her whole. Gabriel's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Your mom's usually right. He was making eggs, scrambled. Caroline watched his hands, scarred knuckles, a platinum ring on his right hand, movements precise and controlled. She'd worked in this house for years and never once imagined Gabriel Campbell cooking. She'd never imagined him doing anything remotely domestic. He was tall. She'd always known that. But sitting while he stood made it more obvious. Over 6 feet, broad shoulders under the black dress shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows revealing forearms corded with muscle and ink. She'd glimpsed tattoos before, but never this close. His dark hair was slightly too long, touching his collar. Sharp jaw, gray eyes that missed nothing. He looked like what he was. Dangerous. You don't have to do this, Caroline said quietly. Do what? Feed us. You helped. You didn't have to. We'll go home as soon as Isaiah's clothes are dry. Gabriel plated the eggs, added toast from somewhere, set the food in front of Isaiah. Eat. Isaiah grabbed a fork and dove in like he'd never seen food before. Caroline's stomach twisted. Gabriel turned to her, leaned against the counter, arms crossed. How long? How long what? How long have you been running on empty? Caroline's hands folded in her lap. She felt the weight of his stare, the way he looked at her like she was a puzzle he was determined to solve. I'm fine, Mr. Campbell. You had a panic attack in my bathroom. Your son walked through a blizzard because you didn't come home. You look like you haven't slept in a week. His voice stayed level. Calm. Terrifying in its control. Try again. She wanted to lie, wanted to smile and deflect and become invisible again. But Isaiah was eating Gabriel's eggs wearing Gabriel's sweater, and the man was still standing there waiting, and Caroline was so tired of holding everything together alone. 4 months, she heard herself say. Since what? Since I started working double shifts. You hired another housekeeper in August. Linda. She quit after 2 weeks. Then Maria. She lasted 1. Caroline's fingers twisted together. You didn't replace them. The house still needed maintaining, so I just did both jobs. Figured it was temporary. Gabriel's expression didn't change. And childcare is expensive. Isaiah's daycare costs more than my rent. My mom, Nana, she helps when she can, but she's 70 and has arthritis. I can't ask her to watch him full time. The words were spilling now, unstoppable. So I pick up extra shifts where I can. Weekends, nights. I send most of my paycheck to the daycare and the rest goes to rent and Isaiah's asthma medication and... She stopped, breathed. I'm sorry. You didn't ask for my life story. I'm asking now. Isaiah was watching them, eggs forgotten. Caroline forced brightness into her voice. Everything's fine, baby. Finish eating. Gabriel pushed off the counter, moved to the fridge, pulled out more eggs, started cooking again. You're going to eat too. I'm not hungry. Lie number 3 tonight. He cracked eggs into the pan. Want to go for 4? Caroline's throat closed. She'd spent years perfecting invisibility. Staff didn't have problems. Staff didn't break down. Staff definitely didn't sit in their employer's kitchen at 1 a.m. while he cooked for them. Why are you being nice to me? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Gabriel's hands stilled. For a moment, she thought she'd crossed a line. Then he looked at her, and something in those gray eyes made her breath catch. Because, he said quietly, someone should be. They ate in silence. Caroline forced down eggs she couldn't taste. Isaiah asked Gabriel questions. What kind of car do you drive? Do you have a dog? Have you ever seen a real gun? With the fearless curiosity of a child who didn't understand that the man answering him controlled half of Chicago's underworld. Gabriel answered patiently, simply, like talking to a 4-year-old was something he did every day. When Isaiah's eyes started drooping, Caroline stood. I should take him home. In a blizzard? At 2 a.m.? Gabriel's eyebrow rose. I don't think so. We can't stay. You can. There are 6 guest rooms upstairs. Pick one. Caroline stared. You want us to sleep here? I want your son to sleep somewhere warm instead of getting hypothermia walking back to Damen Avenue. Gabriel's tone left no room for argument. You can leave in the morning, when it's light, when the roads are clear. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse. She didn't take charity, didn't accept help, didn't let herself need anyone. But Isaiah was already asleep, sitting up, head nodding forward, small body swaying. Okay, she whispered. Thank you. Gabriel nodded once, stood, crossed to Isaiah, and before Caroline could protest, he lifted the boy into his arms. Isaiah's head lolled against Gabriel's shoulder, small hands clutching black cashmere. Something shifted in Gabriel's face, something raw and quickly buried. Follow me, he said. The guest room was bigger than Caroline's entire apartment. King bed with white linens, fireplace already lit, windows overlooking snow-covered gardens, bathroom with heated floors and a tub that could fit 4 people. Gabriel laid Isaiah on the bed, stepped back. The boy curled immediately into the pillows, still asleep. There are clothes in the dresser, Gabriel said. Should be something that fits you. Bathroom's stocked. Caroline stood in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Being kind. You've worked with hundreds of staff. You don't know their names. You've never... She stopped. I'm nobody. Why do you care?" Gabriel turned to face her fully. In the firelight, she could see the lines around his eyes, the gray threading his dark hair. He looked tired, not physically, something deeper. 4 years ago, he said slowly, I lost my wife, Caitlin, cancer. His jaw worked. I was not myself for a long time. I'm still not myself. He glanced at Isaiah. That kid out there walked 2 miles in a blizzard because he was scared, because someone he loved needed him and he didn't care about the danger. He just knew she needed help. He looked back at Caroline. I wish, Gabriel said, quietly. I'd had that kind of courage when Caitlin was dying, instead of shutting down, instead of letting her face it alone. The confession hung between them. Caroline saw the truth of it in his face, the guilt, the regret, the weight he'd been carrying. You're not nobody, Gabriel said, and your son is brave as hell. Get some sleep, Caroline. He left before she could respond. The door clicked shut. Caroline stood in the silent room, listening to Isaiah breathe, feeling the warmth of the fire seep into her frozen bones. For the first time in 4 months, she let herself cry. Not from panic, not from fear, from something dangerously close to hope. Caroline woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. For 3 perfect seconds, she forgot where she was, forgot the panic attack, the blizzard, Isaiah's terrified face at the door. She just existed in warmth and soft sheets and silence. Then memory crashed back. She sat up. Isaiah's side of the bed was empty. Panic surged. She threw off covers, stumbled toward the door, still wearing yesterday's wrinkled work clothes. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she followed the sound of voices downstairs. The kitchen. She stopped in the doorway. Isaiah sat at the breakfast bar in his Spider-Man pajamas, dry now, smelling like expensive laundry detergent. He was eating pancakes. Actual pancakes with strawberries and whipped cream, talking animatedly to Gabriel Campbell, who stood at the stove, flipping more. And then the Green Goblin threw a pumpkin bomb, Isaiah said through a mouthful of pancake. But Spider-Man caught it and threw it back, and he spotted Caroline. Mommy, Mr. Gabriel made pancakes. They have strawberries. Gabriel glanced over his shoulder. Coffee's fresh, cream and sugar on the counter. Caroline's brain struggled to process the scene. Gabriel was barefoot. Barefoot. In black jeans and a gray Henley that clung to his shoulders, hair damp like he'd showered, looking more human than she'd ever seen him. I didn't know where Isaiah was, she said weakly. He came downstairs looking for you 20 minutes ago. I told him to let you sleep. Kid was hungry. Gabriel plated more pancakes, set them in front of an empty stool. Sit. It wasn't a request. Caroline sat. The coffee was perfect. The pancakes were better. She ate mechanically, aware of Isaiah chattering next to her about Spider-Man and snow and, Mom, can we stay here forever? It's like a castle. Gabriel's mouth twitched. It's not a castle. It's big like a castle, and it has a fireplace. Castles have fireplaces. Isaiah's logic was unassailable. Do you have a dragon in the basement? Just a furnace. That's basically a dragon. This time Gabriel almost smiled. Full smile. It transformed his face, softened the harsh lines, reached his eyes, made him look years younger. Caroline's coffee cup paused halfway to her lips. Isaiah kept talking, explaining the intricate plot of Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, and Gabriel listened like it was the most important briefing he'd ever received. He asked questions, clarified plot points, debated whether Miles Morales or Peter Parker was the better Spider-Man. Caroline watched her son bloom under the attention. Isaiah was a shy kid, product of moving apartments 3 times in 2 years, of whispered conversations about money, of learning early that Mom was tired and shouldn't be bothered. He didn't open up to strangers. But with Gabriel, he was fearless. "Can I see your car?" Isaiah asked. "Maybe later." "Can I see your office?" "Definitely not." "Why?" "Because I work in there. Work is boring." "Mom says you're very important." Gabriel's eyes flicked to Caroline. She busied herself with her coffee. "Your mom's wrong," Gabriel said. "I just have a big house." Isaiah considered this. "But you're nice. Important people aren't usually nice." "Where'd you learn that?" "Mom says so." Gabriel looked at Caroline, again. This time she met his gaze, saw the question there. "He's not wrong," she said quietly. "In my experience." Something passed between them. Understanding, maybe, or recognition. "Finish your pancakes," Gabriel told Isaiah. Then to Caroline, "When you're done, come to my office. We need to talk." Her stomach dropped. "About what?" "About why you're killing yourself working 2 jobs when one should be enough." He left the kitchen before she could argue. Gabriel's office was exactly what Caroline expected. Dark wood, leather chairs, massive desk with 3 monitors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the snow-covered grounds, shelves lined with books, Machiavelli, Sun Tzu, first editions that probably cost more than her car. She'd cleaned this room 100 times, never sat in it. Gabriel gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Sit." She sat. He didn't sit. Stood by the window, arms crossed, silhouetted against winter light. "How much are you making?" "Excuse me?" "Your salary." "How much?" Heat flooded her face. "That's personal." "I sign your paychecks. I know how much. I'm asking you to confirm." Caroline's hands twisted in her lap. $43,000 a year. "And you've been doing the work of 2 people for 4 months." "Yes." "Without asking for a raise." "You weren't approachable." The words came out more honest than she intended. "After your wife died, you didn't want to be bothered with staff issues. I figured..." "You figured you'd just work yourself into the ground." Gabriel's voice was flat. "Smart." Caroline's spine stiffened. "I did what I had to do." "Why didn't you quit? Find something better?" "Because jobs that pay $43,000 and offer health insurance for me and my son don't exactly grow on trees." The bitterness leaked through. "Because I have a 4-year-old with asthma who needs an inhaler that costs $300 a month even with insurance. Because my resume has a 2-year gap where I was pregnant and recovering and no one wants to explain that in interviews. Because..." She stopped, breathed. "Because this was the best I could do." Silence. Gabriel turned from the window, looked at her with those gray eyes that saw too much. "What happened to his father?" Caroline's blood froze. "Isaiah's father," Gabriel clarified. "I assume there was one. Where is he?" She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The question hung between them like a grenade with the pin pulled. "Tell him," something whispered. "Tell him the truth. That Isaiah's father was standing right in front of her. That 4 years ago she'd been a new staff member who'd stayed late to help with Caitlin's memorial arrangements. That Gabriel had been drunk, destroyed, alone in this office. That she'd brought him coffee, and he'd looked at her like she was the only real thing in a world gone gray. That they'd had sex once, just once, on the leather couch in the corner. That he'd been gentle even through his grief, had held her after like she mattered, had fallen asleep with his face in her hair. That he'd woken up the next morning and looked at her like he'd never seen her before. Like she was a stranger, like the night had never happened. That she'd found out she was pregnant 6 weeks later. "He's not in the picture," Caroline said. Her voice sounded like it came from very far away. "It was a mistake. One night. He doesn't know about Isaiah." "Why not?" because he made it clear he didn't want anything to do with me. The truth and a lie tangled together. And I wasn't going to force a child on someone who didn't want one. Gabriel's expression didn't change. Does Isaiah ask about him? Sometimes. I tell him his dad lives far away, that some families look different. He's 4. He doesn't push. But he will. Eventually. I know. Caroline's throat ached. I'll handle it when it comes. Another silence. Gabriel moved to his desk, pulled open a drawer, withdrew a checkbook. Started writing. What are you doing? Caroline asked. Fixing the salary problem. He ripped out a check, held it toward her. This is back pay for the 4 months you did 2 jobs. And this, he wrote another check, is a raise, effective immediately, $70,000 a year. Caroline stared at the numbers. I can't. You can. You will. Gabriel's tone left no room for argument. And I'm hiring 2 more housekeepers, full staff, so you work 1 job, not 2. Why? Because watching you run yourself into the ground benefits no one. He set the checks on the desk between them. And because your son shouldn't have to walk through blizzards to find you. Caroline looked at the checks. $70,000. More money than she'd ever made. Enough to afford a better apartment. Enough to stop choosing between electricity and groceries. Enough to feel like she could breathe. There's one condition, Gabriel said. Of course there was. What? Isaiah. Gabriel's voice softened fractionally. Bring him with you. To work. Caroline's head snapped up. What? This house is too big, too empty, and he clearly likes pancakes. Something moved behind Gabriel's eyes, something ancient and painful. Caitlin and I never had kids. She wanted them. We ran out of time. His jaw worked. This place could use someone small running around, making noise, being alive. Understanding crashed through Caroline like cold water. He wasn't just helping her. He was helping himself, filling some hollow place that Isaiah had accidentally stumbled into last night. Gabriel? She used his first name without thinking. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. He met her eyes. Is that a problem? Caroline looked at the man who'd opened his door to a terrified child, who'd made pancakes and answered questions about Spider-Man, and sat on the floor with her son like it was the most natural thing in the world. The man who was Isaiah's father, and didn't know it. No, she whispered. It's not a problem. 3 weeks. That's how long it took for Isaiah to become a fixture in Gabriel Campbell's life. Caroline brought him every day. Isaiah would race through the marble halls in his sneakers, backpack bouncing, filling the silent mansion with laughter and questions and endless energy. Gabriel's office became a secondary playroom, coloring books spread across the leather couch, action figures staging battles on the mahogany desk. Gabriel bought toys, not because Isaiah asked, but because the kid needed something to do while Caroline worked. At least that's what Gabriel told himself. The truth was harder to admit. Isaiah made the house feel less like a mausoleum. Mr. Gabriel? Isaiah's voice interrupted Gabriel's conference call with his underboss. Can you help me? Gabriel held up one finger, mouthed, 1 minute. Isaiah nodded solemnly, clutching a broken action figure. Tony, I don't care if Marino thinks he can renegotiate, Gabriel said into the phone. The terms were clear. He pays what he owes, or we collect differently. End of discussion. He hung up. Isaiah climbed onto Gabriel's lap without hesitation, holding up Spider-Man with a detached arm. He fell. Looks serious. Can you fix him? Gabriel examined the toy. The arm had snapped clean off. He rummaged through his desk drawer, found superglue, carefully reattached the limb. Give it 5 minutes to dry. Isaiah watched, fascinated. You're good at fixing things. Sometimes. Mom says you're good at everything. Gabriel's hand stilled. Your mom talks about me. She says you're very kind and very sad. Isaiah tilted his head, studying Gabriel with those big brown eyes. Why are you sad? The question punched through Gabriel's chest. He'd spent 4 years perfecting his mask, cold, controlled, unreachable. No one asked him personal questions. People who worked for him knew better. People who feared him didn't care. But Isaiah was 4. He didn't know the rules. I lost someone, Gabriel said quietly. Someone I loved very much. Like when my goldfish died? Sort of. Except she was a person. My wife. Isaiah absorbed this. Is she in heaven? I don't know. Maybe. Mom says people we love never really leave. They stay in our hearts. Isaiah patted Gabriel's chest seriously. Is she in there? Gabriel's throat closed. Yeah, kid, she's in there. Then you're not alone. Isaiah smiled, guileless, trusting. And you have me and Mom now, so you have lots of people. Something cracked in Gabriel's chest. Something that had been frozen solid for 4 years. Something he'd thought was dead. He pulled Isaiah closer, buried his face in the boy's dark curls for just a moment. Isaiah wrapped small arms around Gabriel's neck, holding on with the easy affection of a child who didn't know that grown men weren't supposed to need comfort. Yeah, Gabriel whispered. I guess I do. That night, after Caroline took Isaiah home, Gabriel stood in the doorway of the room he hadn't opened in 4 years, Caitlin's studio. He'd locked it the day after her funeral. Couldn't stand seeing her art supplies gathering dust, her half-finished painting staring at him like accusations. She'd been a painter, abstract, beautiful, full of color and life. Everything Gabriel wasn't. He turned the key now. The door swung open. Dust motes danced in moonlight. Canvas covered the walls. Her easel still stood by the window, a painting of Lake Michigan at sunrise frozen in time. Her brushes sat in mason jars. Her palette was crusted with dried paint. Gabriel stepped inside. The guilt was immediate, suffocating. He'd locked this room because seeing it hurt too much. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe he'd spent 4 years running from pain instead of feeling it. He moved to the easel, touched the canvas lightly. Caitlin had been painting this the week before she got too weak to stand. She'd worked on it between chemo sessions, determined to finish. She never had. I'm sorry, Gabriel said to the empty room. I'm so sorry I couldn't save you. The words echoed. No one answered. But something shifted. Something Gabriel couldn't name. Permission, maybe. Or just the realization that Caitlin wouldn't have wanted him to live in a mausoleum. She'd loved life too much for that. She would have loved Isaiah. The thought came unbidden. Gabriel could almost see it. Caitlin laughing as a small boy showed her his drawings, patiently explaining comic book plots, making pancakes, shaped like Spider-Man masks. She would have wanted Gabriel to open his heart again. He pulled out his phone, texted Caroline. Can Isaiah come earlier tomorrow? Want to show him something? Her response came 30 seconds later. Of course. Everything okay? Gabriel looked around the studio, at the life frozen in dust, at the love that had nowhere to go for 4 years. Yeah, he typed back. I think it might be. The next morning, Gabriel was waiting when Caroline and Isaiah arrived. He'd been up since dawn, moving furniture, opening windows, letting winter light flood the studio. Where are we going? Isaiah asked as Gabriel led them upstairs. I want to show you something. Gabriel opened the studio door. Isaiah's eyes went wide. Whoa, Are these paintings? They were my wife's. She was an artist. Isaiah moved from canvas to canvas, studying each one with serious concentration. These are really pretty. She was good. She was. Gabriel crouched down to Isaiah's level. I thought, maybe you'd like to paint too. If your mom says it's okay. Caroline stood in the doorway, hand over her mouth. Gabriel met her eyes over Isaiah's head. Saw the tears she was trying to hold back. Really? Isaiah breathed. I can paint? If you're careful. And if you promise not to get paint on the carpet. I promise. Isaiah was already moving toward the easel, small hands reaching for brushes. Caroline crossed to Gabriel. Are you sure about this? I'm sure. He looked at Caitlin's paintings. She'd like him. The noise, the mess. She always said this place needed more life. Gabriel. Caroline's voice broke. Thank you. He wanted to tell her she didn't need to thank him, that Isaiah was giving him something infinitely more valuable than he could ever give back. That for the first time in 4 years, the house felt like a home. Instead, he just nodded. Isaiah was already painting, tongue stuck out in concentration, creating something abstract and chaotic and beautiful. Gabriel stood next to Caroline, watching. Their shoulders touched. Neither moved away. He's happy here, Caroline said softly. So am I, Gabriel admitted. The words hung between them. Caroline turned her head, looked up at him. Gabriel looked down. Their eyes met and held, and something electric passed between them. Something dangerous. Something Gabriel wasn't ready to name. Caroline broke the gaze first, but her cheeks flushed pink. Gabriel told himself it meant nothing. He was lying. 2 days later, Gabriel's past came knocking. He was in his office when Marco, his head of security, entered without knocking. Boss, we have a problem. Gabriel looked up from his laptop. What kind? The kind with a badge. Detective Sarah Chen. She's at the gate asking to see you. Gabriel's blood cooled. Chen was organized crime division. Smart. Persistent. She'd been trying to build a case against him for 2 years. What does she want? Didn't say. But she's not leaving. Gabriel closed his laptop. Let her in. Conference room. I'll be down in 5. Marco hesitated. Boss? Caroline's in the hall. With the kid. Of course she was. Keep them upstairs. I don't want Isaiah seeing this. Got it. Gabriel moved to the window, watched the unmarked car in his driveway. Chen stepped out, mid-30s, short black hair, wearing a blazer and the expression of someone who'd seen too much and believed too little. She was here for blood. Gabriel could feel it. He checked his watch. Isaiah's painting session was in 30 minutes. He needed this finished fast. Detective Chen sat across from Gabriel in the conference room, digital recorder on the table between them. Mr. Campbell, thank you for seeing me. I don't have a choice, do I? Everyone has choices. Her smile was thin. I have some questions about a fire. Southside warehouse. 3 nights ago, 2 men died. That's tragic. It's suspicious. Both men worked for Marco Santini, your rival. Chen leaned forward. Funny how your competition keeps having accidents. Gabriel's expression didn't change. If you have evidence connecting me to a crime, arrest me. Otherwise, I have things to do. I'm sure you do. Chen's eyes swept the room. Nice place. Must be expensive to maintain. I imagine you need a lot of staff. Something cold slithered down Gabriel's spine. Is there a point to this? Just curious how you vet your employees. Background checks? References? She flipped open a folder. For example, Caroline Mitchell. Been with you 4 years. Clean record. Single mother. Lives on Dahmen Avenue with her son. Gabriel's hands curled into fists under the table. What does my housekeeper have to do with anything? Probably nothing, but I like to know who's close to my persons of interest. Chen smiled. Children make people vulnerable, you understand. It wasn't a question. It was a threat. Gabriel stood slowly. Get out. Mr. Campbell, out, now. Before I call my lawyer and have you charged with harassment. Chen stood, tucking her folder away. I'll be in touch. She left. Gabriel stood in the silent conference room, pulse hammering, mind racing. Chen knew about Isaiah, which meant she could use him, use Caroline, make their lives hell just to put pressure on Gabriel. He'd spent 4 years keeping his business separate from his personal life. Now those worlds were colliding, and Isaiah was standing right in the middle. Gabriel found Caroline in the studio, cleaning paint off, Isaiah's hands while the boy chattered about his latest masterpiece. The sight should have been calming. Instead, it cranked the tension in Gabriel's chest tighter. Isaiah, buddy, Gabriel said. Can you give me and your mom a minute? Isaiah looked between them, sensing the shift in tone. Am I in trouble? No, you're perfect. I just need to talk to Mom about boring grown-up stuff. Okay. Isaiah ran off to examine more paintings. Caroline stood, concerned. What's wrong? We need to talk. Privately. Gabriel's office felt too small with both of them in it. Caroline stood by the window, arms crossed defensively. Gabriel paced. There was a detective here today, he started. Sarah Chen, Organized Crime Division. Caroline's face went pale. Why? Because she's been trying to build a case against me for 2 years. She has nothing solid, so she's fishing. Gabriel stopped pacing. She mentioned you, by name, and Isaiah. What? The word came out strangled. She knows who you are, where you live, that Isaiah exists. Gabriel's jaw locked. It's a warning. She's telling me she can get to you if she wants. Caroline's hand found the desk for support. Oh God. I won't let that happen. You can't control this. She's a cop, Gabriel. If she wants to make our lives difficult, then we make it impossible for her. Gabriel moved closer. I have lawyers, the best. They'll make sure Chen can't touch you. And what happens when the next detective comes? Or the next rival who wants leverage? Caroline's voice rose. I knew this was a mistake. I knew getting close to you would what? Make you safer? Because that's what's happening. You're under my protection now. I don't want to be a target. You already were. Gabriel's control snapped. You think living alone on Damen Avenue with a 4-year-old was safe? You were one bad night away from... He stopped, breathed, forced calm. At least here, I can protect you. Silence. Caroline stared at him, chest heaving. This isn't just about Isaiah, is it? She said quietly. What? This. You. The pancakes, the studio, the clothes, the way you look at him. Her eyes glistened. You're trying to replace her. The accusation hit like a gut punch. That's not, isn't it? You lost your wife. You lost the family you wanted. And suddenly there's a child in your house filling the silence and you... I care about him. The words exploded out. Is that so wrong? I care about him and I care about you, and yes, maybe I'm trying to fill something empty inside me, but that doesn't make it fake. Caroline went very still. Gabriel's hands shook. He shoved them in his pockets. I know I can't replace what you never had. I know I'm not Isaiah's father. But I'm here. I'm present. And I'm not going anywhere. You don't understand. Caroline's voice broke. You don't, then help me understand. You can't, because you... She turned away, hand over her mouth. Gabriel moved behind her, close enough to feel her warmth, not touching. Because what? Caroline's shoulders shook. Because you don't remember. Remember what? She turned. Tears streaked her face. 4 years ago, the night after Caitlin's memorial. You were in this office, drunk, destroyed. I brought you coffee. Her voice dropped to a whisper. And we slept together. The world stopped. Gabriel's mind went blank, then flooded. 4 years ago, the memorial. The bottle of whiskey he'd killed alone in his office. The haze of grief and alcohol and numbness. Someone had brought him coffee. He'd looked up and seen someone. A woman. Kind eyes. Gentle hands. She'd sat with him. Let him talk about Caitlin. Let him fall apart. And then, oh God. Caroline, he breathed. You don't remember my face. I know that. But I remember yours. Her tears fell freely now. You held me like I mattered. Like I was real. And then you woke up and looked at me like I was a stranger. Like it never happened. Gabriel's legs nearly gave out. He gripped the desk. Isaiah is yours, yes. Caroline's laugh was broken. I found out I was pregnant 6 weeks later, and I knew you were still drowning in grief. I wouldn't add to that. So I just didn't tell you. The floor tilted. Gabriel's vision blurred. Isaiah, his son. The boy he'd been teaching to paint and making pancakes for and reading bedtime stories to. His son. Why? The word scraped out. Why didn't you tell me? Because you didn't want me. Caroline's voice cracked. You made that clear the next morning. And I wasn't going to force fatherhood on someone who looked at me like I was nothing. I was drowning. Gabriel's voice shook. I wasn't. I couldn't see anything except the hole Caitlin left. I know. That's why I stayed quiet. Caroline wiped her face. But now you care about him. Now you've let him in. And I don't know how to tell you the truth without destroying everything. Gabriel sank into his desk chair, put his head in his hands. Isaiah's face flashed through his mind. Those big brown eyes, that smile, the way he'd patted Gabriel's chest and said, "You have me now." His son. He had a son. Gabriel, please say something. He looked up. Caroline stood across the desk, terrified and brave and waiting for him to explode. Instead, Gabriel asked the only question that mattered. Does he know that you're his father? No. Does he ask? Sometimes. I tell him his dad lives far away. Caroline's voice broke again. I didn't know. I didn't know you'd fall in love with him. Gabriel stood, moved around the desk, stopped inches from Caroline. I should be angry, he said quietly. I should be furious that you kept this from me for 4 years. I know. But I'm not. He touched her face, thumb brushing away tears. Because you gave me something I didn't think I'd ever have. You gave me a son. Caroline's breath hitched. I don't remember that night, Gabriel continued. But I remember waking up feeling less empty. Like someone had reached into the dark and pulled me back. His hand cupped her cheek. That was you. Gabriel, we're going to figure this out, together. His voice steadied. Isaiah is mine. You're mine. And I protect what's mine. I'm not yours. Aren't you? His gray eyes locked on hers. Tell me you haven't felt it. The way we fit. The way Isaiah looks at me like I'm his hero. The way you look at me when you think I'm not watching. Caroline's cheeks flushed. This is complicated. Everything worth having is. They stood in silence. The distance between them charged with possibility and fear, and something that felt dangerously like fate. I have a daughter too, Caroline whispered. Mary, she's 6, from before, different father. He was bad. I left him when I was pregnant with Isaiah. Gabriel absorbed this. Another child. Another layer of complexity. Where is she now? With my mom. I didn't want to uproot her. She doesn't know about you. Then it's time she did. Gabriel's decision was instant. Bring her here. Both of them. Move in properly. Gabriel, that's what families do. We stay together. He leaned closer. Let me do this right. Let me be the father Isaiah deserves. The father Mary deserves. The office door slammed open. Marco stood in the doorway, blood on his shirt, gun in hand. Boss, we have a problem. Santini's men are at the gate, and they're not here to talk. Gabriel's training kicked in instantly. How many? 6 vehicles, maybe 20 men, armed. Marco's face was grim. They're demanding you come out. Where's Isaiah? Still in the studio. Get him. Get Caroline and Isaiah to the safe room. Now. Caroline grabbed Gabriel's arm. What's happening? Rival family. They want leverage. Gabriel cupped her face, forced her to focus. You're going to go with Marco. You're going to protect Isaiah. Can you do that? She nodded, terrified but steady. Go. Marco grabbed Caroline's hand, pulled her toward the door. Come on, now. They ran. Gabriel moved to his desk, pressed the hidden panel. The wall slid open, revealing an arsenal. He grabbed a Glock, checked the clip, tucked it in his waistband. His phone buzzed. Tony, his underboss. We're 10 minutes out. Hold position. Gabriel typed back. Civilians in house. No shots near the main building. He moved to the window. 6 black SUVs blocked his gate. Men in tactical gear spread out across the driveway. Marco Santini himself stood in front, megaphone in hand. Campbell! We know you're in there! Gabriel's jaw locked. Santini. The bastard who'd been trying to take over Gabriel's territory for 6 months. The fire Chen had mentioned. That was Gabriel shutting down Santini's latest expansion attempt. Now Santini was here for revenge. We can do this easy or hard, Santini's voice echoed. Come out, we talk. Stay in, we come in. Your choice. Gabriel grabbed his phone, called Marco. Status? Safe room secured. Caroline and the kid are locked. In. He's scared but holding up. Stay with them. Don't open that door for anyone but me. Boss. That's an order. He hung up, checked his watch. 8 minutes until Tony arrived with reinforcements. 8 minutes to keep Santini from entering the house. 8 minutes to protect his son. The thought still felt surreal. His son. Isaiah. The boy painting in the studio upstairs, who'd asked Gabriel to help fix Spider-Man, who'd patted his chest and said, "You're not alone." Gabriel would die before letting Santini touch him. He opened the window, called down. Santini, you've got 30 seconds to leave my property. Santini laughed. Or what? You'll call the cops? We both know you can't. Not with your record. I don't need cops. Then what do you... Gunfire erupted, not from Santini's men, from the perimeter. Gabriel's security team responding to the breach. Santini's men scrambled for cover, returning fire. The driveway erupted into chaos. Gabriel's phone buzzed. Tony, we're at the south entrance, moving in. It was about to get bloody. Gabriel moved through the house in tactical mode. Years of military training, of surviving Chicago's underworld, of protecting what was his. He cleared each room, ensured no one had breached the interior. The gunfire outside intensified. Shouts, breaking glass, the sharp crack of rifle fire. Gabriel reached the hallway outside the safe room. Marco stood guard, weapon drawn. Status? Gabriel asked. Doors holding. They're quiet in there. Good. Tony's team is engaging outside. This'll be over soon. A window shattered downstairs. Footsteps. Heavy. Multiple. Gabriel and Marco exchanged looks. Someone had breached. Stay here, Gabriel ordered. Protect that door. Boss, do it. Gabriel descended the stairs. 3 men in tactical gear moved through his foyer, weapons raised. They spotted him. There, take him. Bullets chewed through plaster. Gabriel dove behind a marble column, returned fire. 1 man dropped. 2 left. They advanced. Gabriel waited, counting footsteps. When they rounded the column, he was ready. 2 shots. Both men down. Silence. Gabriel's ears rang. He checked the bodies. All 3 dead. Necessary. Regrettable. More footsteps above. Gabriel spun, weapon raised. Isaiah stood at the top of the stairs. Gabriel's heart stopped. Isaiah, get back. I want Mom. The boy's voice was high, terrified. He must have slipped past Marco somehow. I want Mom, and I want you, and I'm scared. Isaiah, listen to me. Gabriel kept his voice calm, despite the adrenaline screaming through his veins. I need you to go back to Marco. Can you do that? No, I want... The front door exploded inward. 4 more men. Gabriel moved on instinct, putting himself between Isaiah and the threat. Stay behind me. Campbell? The lead man's voice was cold. Step aside. We're not here for you. Gabriel's blood turned to ice. You're not touching him. That your kid. Cute. Bet he'd make excellent leverage. Gabriel's finger tightened on the trigger. You're going to walk out that door, right now, or you're not walking anywhere. You're outgunned, old man. Am I? Tony's voice came from behind the men. Drop your weapons, now. The 4 men turned. Tony stood in the doorway with 6 soldiers, all armed, all trained on Santini's team. The lead man's face went white. This isn't over. It is. Tony's voice was flat. You came into this house, threatened a child. That's a line even we don't cross. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called the cops. The 4 men bolted. Gabriel lowered his weapon, turned. Isaiah was crying, small body shaking. Gabriel holstered his Glock, climbed the stairs, dropped to his knees in front of the boy. Hey, it's okay. You're safe. Isaiah threw himself into Gabriel's arms. I was scared. I didn't want you to get hurt. Gabriel held him, tight, feeling the small heartbeat against his chest, the warmth, the trust. His son. I'm okay, Gabriel whispered. I'm right here. I've got you. Marco appeared, face white. Boss, I'm sorry. He slipped through when... It's fine. Get Caroline. Tell her we're clear. Marco vanished. Gabriel stayed on the stairs, holding Isaiah, listening to the sirens get closer. Everything was about to change. Chen would have a field day with this. The cops would ask questions. Santini would regroup. But right now, in this moment, Gabriel had his son in his arms, and nothing else mattered. Caroline burst from the safe room and found them on the stairs. Isaiah! Oh God, Isaiah! Isaiah reached for her. Gabriel transferred the boy into her arms, watched them cling to each other. Is it over? Caroline asked. For now. Gabriel stood. But Santini knows about Isaiah now. He'll use that. What do we do? Gabriel looked at his son, in Caroline's arms. Made the decision that had been building since the moment she'd told him the truth. We leave, he said. Tonight. I have a house in Michigan, off the grid, isolated, safe. He met Caroline's eyes. All of us. You, Isaiah, Mary. We disappear until I handle Santini permanently. Gabriel, you can't just... I can. I will. He touched Isaiah's face. He's mine, Caroline. Which means I'll burn this city down before I let anyone hurt him. Caroline stared. Saw the truth in his face. Okay. 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 She held Isaiah tighter. We trust you. The words settled over Gabriel like a benediction. Trust. Something he hadn't earned. Something he'd been given anyway. Pack light, he said. We leave in 2 hours. The lake house sat at the edge of Lake Michigan, 40 miles from civilization. Gabriel had bought it years ago as a safe house. Bulletproof windows, reinforced doors, satellite internet, generator backup. He'd never imagined he'd bring a family here. Now, 3 weeks after the attack, the house felt less like a fortress and more like a home. Isaiah ran through the rooms in thick socks, sliding on hardwood floors, laughing as Mary chased him. Mary had adjusted faster than Caroline expected. The 6-year-old had taken one look at Gabriel, decided he was cool like Batman, and immediately claimed the bedroom with the best window view. Caroline stood in the kitchen making dinner, watching her children play, trying to process how her life had transformed in less than a month. Gabriel entered from the back deck, bringing cold air and the smell of snow. Tony called. Santini's in custody. Chen made a deal. She drops her. Investigation of me in exchange for everything I have on Santini's operation. Caroline's knife paused. So we can go home? If you want. Gabriel crossed to the counter. Or we can stay. She looked at him. Really looked. He'd changed in 3 weeks. Less tension in his shoulders, more light in his eyes. He smiled now. Real smiles. Because of Isaiah. Because of Mary, who'd climbed into his lap during a thunderstorm and fell asleep trusting him completely. Because of Caroline herself, who'd spent 3 weeks living in close quarters with a man who made her feel seen for the first time in her life. What do you want? She asked quietly. Gabriel moved closer. Honestly, I want to tell Isaiah the truth, that I'm his father. His voice roughened. I want to adopt Mary, make it legal, make her mine the way Isaiah is. He paused. And I want you, not as my housekeeper, not as the mother of my child, as mine. Caroline's heart hammered. Gabriel, I know it's fast. I know, it's complicated. But when has anything about us been simple? He cupped her face. You gave me a second chance at life, Caroline. Let me give you one too. She wanted to say it was too soon, that they needed time, that falling for your employer who turned out to be your son's father was a lifetime movie plot, not real life. But Isaiah laughed in the other room, and Mary called out, Mr. Gabriel, come see what I drew. And Caroline looked into gray eyes that had been cold 4 years ago, but were warm now, alive now, and she thought, maybe fairy tales didn't have to make sense to be true. Isaiah, she called. Mary, can you come here? The children bounded in. Isaiah climbed onto the counter stool. Mary leaned against Gabriel's leg like it was the most natural thing in the world. Caroline took a breath. We need to talk to you both about something important. Isaiah's eyes went wide. Are we in trouble? No, baby. The opposite. She glanced at Gabriel. He nodded. You know how you've been asking about your dad? About why he's not around? Isaiah's face scrunched. Yeah, you said he lives far away. I did. I was wrong. Caroline's throat ached. Your dad isn't far away. He's right here. Isaiah looked around, confused. His gaze landed on Gabriel. Mr. Gabriel? Yeah, buddy. Gabriel's voice was thick. I'm your dad. Silence. Isaiah processed this, tiny brain working. Then, really? Really? But you didn't know about me. No, I didn't. Your mom, she had reasons for not telling me. Good reasons. But now I know. And Gabriel's voice cracked. I'm so glad I know. Because you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Isaiah slid off the stool, walked to Gabriel. looked up at him with those big brown eyes. So you're my dad. Like a real dad. Like a real dad. And you're not going away. Never, I promise. Isaiah thought about this. Then he smiled, bright and beautiful and trusting, and wrapped his arms around Gabriel's legs. Okay, I like having a dad. Gabriel dropped to his knees, pulled Isaiah into a crushing hug. Caroline saw his shoulders shake, saw him bury his face in their son's curls. When he looked up, tears tracked down his face. Mary tugged Caroline's hand. Mom? What about me? Caroline knelt down. What about you, sweetheart? Does Mr. Gabriel want to be my dad too? Even though I'm not his real daughter? Gabriel released Isaiah, turned to Mary. Come here. Mary walked over cautiously. Gabriel took her small hands. Mary, I want you to listen very carefully. You are my real daughter. Not because of blood, because I choose you. And I'm going to love you just as much as I love Isaiah. Forever. Is that okay with you? Mary's lip trembled. You promise? I promise. Can I be your dad? Mary launched herself at him. Yes, 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 yes. Gabriel caught her, held both children, and Caroline's vision blurred with tears. Her family. Somehow, against all odds, she had a family. Later, after the children were asleep, Caroline found Gabriel on the back deck. He stood at the railing, staring at the frozen lake, breath misting in the cold air. She wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, joined him. You okay? I keep thinking about what I almost missed. Gabriel's voice was quiet. If Isaiah hadn't knocked on my door that night, if you'd never told me, I would have spent the rest of my life not knowing I had a son. But you do know now. Because of you. He turned to face her. You could have kept the secret forever, but you didn't. I was tired of lying, and you deserved to know. Caroline moved closer. You're a good father, Gabriel. Better than you think. I don't know how to do this. Be a dad. Be a family. None of us do. We just figure it out together. She touched his face. You're not alone anymore. Gabriel's hand covered hers. Neither are you. They stood in the cold, the dark lake stretching before them, the warm house at their backs. Inside, 2 children slept soundly, dreaming of snowmen and pancakes and a father who'd promised never to leave. Caroline thought about the girl she'd been 4 years ago, desperate, alone, terrified. That girl had made impossible choices to survive, had carried secrets that weighed like stones, had believed she'd spend her whole life invisible. She'd been wrong. Gabriel? She whispered. Yeah. I love you. The words hung in the frozen air. Gabriel went very still. Then he pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. I love you too, he said roughly. Both of you. All 3 of you. I don't know how this happened, but I'm not letting go. Good, Caroline said, because we're not going anywhere. They kissed there on the deck, the lake wind biting their skin, the stars impossibly bright above. It wasn't a fairy tale kiss. It was real. Messy and imperfect and tentative, tasting like coffee and hope and second chances. When they pulled apart, Gabriel was smiling. Real. Unguarded. Marry me, he said. Caroline laughed. That's, not a question. Marry me anyway. She looked at him. This dangerous man who'd become gentle. This broken man who'd become whole. This stranger who'd become everything. Okay, she said. Yes. 6 months later. The wedding was small. Just family. Tony stood as Gabriel's best man, cracking jokes about how the boss had finally been tamed by a 4-year-old. Caroline's mother cried through the entire ceremony, Isaiah served as ring-bearer with extreme seriousness. Mary scattered flower petals, with chaotic enthusiasm. They married at the lake house. Spring had transformed the landscape. Ice melted, wildflowers blooming, birds returning. The judge who officiated was an old friend of Gabriel's, someone who owed him favors and didn't ask questions. When Gabriel kissed his bride, Isaiah cheered. Mary made gagging noises. Everyone laughed. The reception was dinner on the back deck, steaks and wine and children running wild in the grass. As the sun set over Lake Michigan, painting the sky, in shades of gold and pink, Gabriel pulled Caroline aside. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For knocking on my door, for giving me Isaiah, for giving me a reason to be more than what I was." He kissed her forehead. "For saving me. You saved us first. Then we're even." They stood together, watching their children play, the lake stretching endless before them. It wasn't the life Caroline had imagined. It was better. Behind them, the house glowed warm with light. Inside, rooms that had once echoed with emptiness now overflowed with laughter and toys and the beautiful chaos of a family. Gabriel had finally filled the mausoleum, not with ghosts, but with life. And Caroline had finally found a place where she was seen, where she mattered, where love wasn't something she had to beg for. It was something freely given. Isaiah ran over, grass-stained and grinning. "Dad! Mom! Watch this!" He attempted a cartwheel, fell on his face, popped back up laughing. Gabriel swept him up. "Very impressive! I'm going to be a gymnast! You're going to be whatever you want to be." Mary joined them, tugging Gabriel's sleeve. "Can we make s'mores? Please, please, please?" Gabriel looked at Caroline. She nodded. "Absolutely. Go grab the marshmallows." The children raced off. Gabriel wrapped his arm around Caroline's waist, pulled her close. "This is it," he said quietly. "This is everything I didn't know I needed." Caroline leaned into him, felt his heartbeat steady and strong beneath her cheek. "Me too." Sometimes the people who save us aren't the ones we expected. Sometimes they're the ones the world told us to fear. Sometimes they're the small hands knocking on the wrong door at the wrong time, asking for help when we've forgotten how to ask ourselves. Gabriel Campbell had built an empire on fear, but a 4-year-old boy with brown eyes and endless questions had taught him something more valuable than power. That strength isn't measured by how many people fear you. It's measured by how many people feel safe enough to fall asleep in your arms, to trust you with their hearts, to call you dad and mean it. Caroline Mitchell had spent her life invisible, believing she had to carry everything alone. But she'd learned that asking for help isn't weakness, that letting someone in isn't surrender, that the right person doesn't save you. They stand beside you while you save yourself. And Isaiah? Isaiah learned that family isn't just the people you're born to. It's the people who choose you, who fight for you, who show up even when it's hard. This isn't a story about perfection. It's a story about broken people finding each other in the dark and deciding that broken together is better than whole apart. It's about second chances, and messy love and the courage it takes to build something new from the ruins of what was. Maybe that's what all of us are searching for. Not a perfect love story, just someone willing to fight for us when we're too tired to fight for ourselves. Someone who sees the worst parts of us and stays anyway. Someone who makes us believe that despite everything, we deserve to be loved.